Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Undying Bastards, written by Narrated. The trenches were quiet. It had been several weeks since our first combined offensive against the government forces. I was a corporal back in the Liberation Army, and I led my squad of men on the battlefield. Back then, ever since the human mercenary group Heaven's Legionnaires came to support our fight against the tyrants of the old night, our offensives were successful. Time and time again, the humans proved themselves superior in the realm of warfare, with their seemingly unending ingenuity, unbroken logistical chains, and superior firepower. But I'm not here to recount their braveries, their tenacities, their capabilities, just as many have before me. Those stories, I found them unfaithful of the human's true abilities, and call this account an embellishment of events. All I can do is say that how it unfolded right in front of my eyes. I'm here to speak of their apparent immortality. Marisolis. The trenches were quiet. It has been days since we've come under fire, and as for myself, I was thankful for it. These several days of respite are appreciated by the company, as everyone has time and relative peace to reorient and reorganize. The company has been resupplied. I got some new socks issued to me, and they feel divine. My squad shared with me their appreciation of hot showers and clean clothes. The smell of these uniforms was a distinct factory smell, but that never made them less precious. But to say morale was low before the resupply would be a lie. We were winning, and we were cheering. For as long as I can remember, we have been on the back foot on the Civil War. And while my devotion to the cause remains strong, I must admit that I have questioned our motivation to fight on several accounts. The past several weeks have brought triumph over triumph, and through hard-fought battles, we were able to bring the fight to the enemy. However, it was all thanks to the humans. Skepticism spread through the ranks, and many other NCOs were worried about where the allegiance of the supposed mercenaries would lie in the coming days. That was before the first of their forces arrived, and they brought with them men and material we could only have in our dreams. Now we cheered with them, sang songs with them, shared stories with them, and in the horrors of war and worrisome life, we became friends. I found interest in one of the human soldiers, a female that goes by the name of Elowen Thorn, often teased by her compatriots as a thorn in her sides. We, as NCOs, we clicked, as she would call it. We had the same expectations, the same thoughts, the same ideas, and the same rank. She was a corporal, and I was a corporal. We fought on the battlefield together in boots and sweat. I am not ashamed to say that she was gorgeous, still is now. With her flaming crimson hair and sharpened gaze, she stole my heart then. But I remained professional, as should she, for we were in a war, after all. That said, I never once considered how closely similar both of our species were, and how much of a coincidence it was that our home planets had similar conditions. Elowen said humans evolved from apes, so did we Kalids, and our histories weren't that much different. Was it the universe trying to tell us that we were long-lost relatives within the backdrop of space? Or was it just one big coincidence? I decided early on that being philosophical wasn't going to amount to anything. She and her peers were trained soldiers, unlike us conscripts, and their organization and method of battle reflected that. With technology that was beyond our capabilities to build and deploy, they fought under complete air superiority, downing the primitive government aircraft left and right, dominating the skies. On the ground, their armored vehicles blew everyone's ears out, as their lightning-fast maneuvers were a chaotic symphony of control. While before we were here fumbling about, making small incremental advances, the humans were a force multiplier that flipped the entire game board. However, for their insanely advanced technologies and machines, for their refined doctrines and strategies, for all of their love for gigantic explosions and sports, the one thing that stopped their spree of victories was Mother Nature, as Elowen told me. A particularly bad magnetic storm had descended upon the battlefield, and for the next few days kept most human aircraft grounded, thus halting their blazing fast advance. That puts us here, with me and my squad sitting in the trench next to Elowin's squad of legionnaires. By contrast, our equipment was worthless. Our tunic and metal helmets, chest rig and ceramic plates doesn't compare to her squad's sleek, clean, edgeless combat suits. Their weapons are leagues above our own. That much has been reiterated so many times by so many lips within these trenches, but despite our divide in technology, culture and comforts, we always found each other comfortable. Elowin would tell me stories of a birth world, Lyriath, or something along those lines. She always teased me for always misspelling it. Nothing out of malice, though. In return, I would tell her what I did before the Civil War, what life was like before government forces clamped down on the dissidents, before I even knew we weren't alone in the universe. Her looks, her laugh, her smile, her demeanor, and her personality were encapsulating, and some of my squad mates figured I was falling for her. I was. I did. But again, it was war, no time for love. Camaraderie, yes, but a relationship as deep as lovers was just going to make the pain hurt more. I suppose I didn't learn soon enough that pent-up feelings make for painful release. It was a day like any other. My squad had finished our rounds around the trench, polishing boots, maintaining our weapons, repairing the fortifications, and had some time to kill. We sat around enjoying the quiet fourth storm, some using up the last of the cigarettes to blow off some tension, while I was busy filing out paperwork beside them. The work of a corporal was tough. I was lucky to be assigned men who respected me as much as I respected them. A real brotherhood that was forged through gunpowder and lead. Elowin suddenly jumped down from the top, smile shining on her face as she regarded the squads casually. Her blue eyes and natural reddened cheeks were beautiful even when pockmarked by grime and mud. As she took off her helmet to let her cut-short red hair flow, the rest of her squad followed down, and thus it was a party like no other. A quiet one. She shared greetings and a few polite chuckles, before eventually the two of us settled in sitting and taking a rest. It was sudden as lightning, and I saw Elowin stand up and listen to her helmet with a serious look on her face. Her shot came next, bellowing towards us all. Gas! Gas. The dreaded weapon. Something that we were trained to counter, but never expected to encounter for real. We all scrambled to our feet, my squad rushing to get our gas masks from the supply closet, and on this side of the trench, well, I saw Elowin and her squad put on theirs that had been hanging from their hips. I fitted it up to my face, slow as sure as fast, as they say, and take my time to ensure the seal was good, lest I die from the gas. We returned out into the trench and looked towards the field. Lo and behold, a wave of slow-moving green gas was approaching our position. We all joked at the sight, jesting at the government forces having to resort to such tactics. And we all agreed that they were becoming desperate. Still, a CBRN unit would need to flush out the toxic fumes after the attack was done. But at least they finally got some action. The gas hit our trenches, its heavy mixture making it drop into the hole and fill it up to the brim. I looked towards the squad, all looking at each other, checking if everybody was okay. We all were, no loose seals, and all was dandy. That was, until I heard someone cough. I turned around, and I found one of Elowin's men coughing, as she too turned in confusion. She questioned him whether he had a bad seal or not, and the man shook his head and said no. All the screen on my HUD, he claimed. Yet he kept on coughing, his hands moving to clutch his chest. His movements becoming staggered, his torso bent forward in pain. Then Elowin began coughing as well, and the rest of the squad followed. It was horrifying to watch. I froze in fear and shock, only able to witness the sure death of the venerable humans, and the death of Elowin. I nearly wept. My feet buckled, listening to the agonizing screams and wet coughing, watching as they clutched their chests tightly, some clawing there as if to scratch an awful itch. But it was of no use. I built up the courage to come to Elowin's side, which was sitting back against the wall of the trench. Through the glass I saw her shining blue eyes, with her face covered in her blood. I saw pieces of her lung in there, as she fought valiantly against the deadly gas. Somehow, someway, it had gone through her advanced air-filtering mask, and I was watching her die from it. My heart ached badly. I wanted to cry. And yet, I was speechless. No words ever escaped my lips. She'd gone still, her eyes open, and I didn't see her breathe. I'd watched her take her last. Gone. Just like that, within the blink of an eye. No warning, and no great battle. The humans were advanced, a race from the stars, and they were defeated by gas? I couldn't believe it. It was a cruel joke. Maybe hallucinogen was pumped into our trench. Just gods, please, don't take her. My squad mates broke me out of my stupor as they shouted, spotting enemy movement heading to our position. I should be stronger. For them, yes. I need to do my duty. That's what she would have wanted. I held back tears and choked on air for a second, before lifting my hands from a corpse. I stood shakily upon the battlements, watching through binoculars the enemy moving closer and closer, uncontested, all marching confidently in a uniformed line with their bayonets drawn. This must be happening throughout the line. No other segment was firing back. No shots fired. Too shocked at the sudden death of the humans. It was a nightmare in progress, and I was going to die in it. Then I would at least die next to her. I hadn't been able to tell her how I felt. Maybe we would meet soon after this, in heaven or hell. But I didn't care, so long as I could see her. What should we do? I heard one of the men whisper, his words full of despair and uncertainty. What could they do? There's nothing we could do, not anymore. The government forces were numerous, much better armed and equipped and much better trained. They would just walk in, shoot us all without mercy, and retake land that has been liberated by us. I heard a soft thud, one that I never registered to be something important. I heard my men gasp in disbelief, maybe caught by surprise, by the appearance of the dreadnought that was coming through the fog. This is it, our end, the humans' end. I could only hope tomorrow my fellow soldiers would not let our sacrifice be in vain. I muttered a soft prayer, asking for forgiveness, asking. I felt a hand on my shoulder then, and I turned to look at her. Hellworld, her red hair disheveled, covered in mud, her face and lips and jaw covered in blood. A piece of lung trailed down from her lips, dangling in the air. And yet she stood face to face with me, her eyes full of life. Let them come. A chill came down my spine. This was a nightmare, and I was tormented by visions of her. But then I watched her squad rise from the ground in similar condition as hers. Some throats were even hollowed out, by the gas, no doubt. They stood, and they held up their weapons, dropping their gas masks to show their mutilated jaws, throats, and reddened eyes. Back from the dead, ready to fight. Her voice was gentle and coarse and sounded hurtful, but soft nevertheless. Don't worry about us. It takes more than this to bring us down. A radio sounded out, and voices similar to hers spoke through, reporting their conditions and checking in on their status. I stared in disbelief and awe. How? I watched you die, I finally croaked out, fearful, confused, shocked. She chuckled, only to cough again, and more of her lung came out. I involuntarily grimaced. She took a long breath, an action that no doubt hurt so bad, and smiled. We have work to do. She picked up her weapon and slowly turned towards her squad, and they all shared a mutual understanding. They gathered their equipment, moved up the battlements, and then climbed over the top. I yelled at them to wait, but they were already gone. I gripped the radio tightly to my ear, and as my eyes watched the squad of undead humans walk confidently, if not stumbling a little, towards the enemy. A moment later the radio was abuzz. Humans from all the lines speaking in hoarse tones and reserved shouts of orders from curses. Human artillery fell on the government forces promptly afterwards, and the dead men walking pressed the advantage and advanced alongside the shelling. A scene straight out of a horror movie. One I was watching with my own eyes, and one I still could not believe at the moment. The government forces broke all rank, all turning around and running away, stumbling over their fallen comrades, as a swath of them were gunned down by human fire. Said humans stumbled, limped, and then even crawled on the ground. But instead of away from the enemy, they were going towards them. Hellworld herself, her graceful form now unbalanced and stumbling, was determined to expend every last one of her bullets and every last one of her strength. She fell over, and by instinct I clambered out of the trench and ran as fast as I could to her. I slid to a stop beside her body, laid on her back, and stared toward the blue sky. She whispered one word, unaware of my presence. Archaea. Present day. Do you remember now? This story, once told to be incredulous and impossible. On that day, inside that trench, I watched humans come back to life with more fire and vigor in their eyes than I'd ever seen before. Without hesitation, they charged the enemy, coordinated perfectly, even as their organs were torn apart inside. The tale fell out of favor and never caught on. But I remember. They remember. I pulled out a small photograph, to which I showed the cameras. It was a picture of me and Elowen, her dressed in a hospital gown, smiling carefree, as if the bandages around her throat and jaw weren't there. She remembers. All of Heaven's Legionnaires remembers. On that day, 100 humans suffered the unimaginable pain of a terrible bioweapon. On that day, 100 humans coughed out their lungs and tore out their throats. On that day, 100 humans died in those trenches. And on that day, 100 humans revived and charged the enemy, ready to die once again. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.